Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here. We are going to explore the very foundation of biology itself, literally the stuff of life. We're looking at a fantastic breakdown, originally prepared by Mohammed Faraz, covering the CBSE Class 11 curriculum on the living world. Look, if you've ever stared at a leaf, checked out a microbe under a microscope, or just looked in the mirror and wondered, how on earth do scientists actually make sense of all this crazy complexity? Well, you're in exactly the right place. So let's just dive right in and uncover how we define, organize, and really understand the magnificent tapestry of life on Earth.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. First, 1. Defining the living world. Then, 2. Earth's incredible biodiversity. After that, 3. The science of taxonomy, followed by 4, classifying and naming life, and finally 5, tools for organizing life.
All right, Section 1, Defining the Living World.
Let's get right into it. Before we can start categorizing life, we gotta know what we're actually looking at, right? Like, what exactly is the living world? I mean, we all intuitively know that a tiger is alive and, say, a rock is not. But when you get down to the scientific nitty-gritty, drawing a hard line between the living and the non-living, well, it requires a pretty strict, almost philosophical set of rules.
So the formal definition tells us that the living world includes all organisms that show life processes. And we aren't just talking about humans or our pets here. This whole thing spans a massive, massive variety of organisms. We're talking towering plants, roaming animals, super complex fungi, and microscopic bacteria. But the real key point here, and this is absolutely crucial to grasp, is interaction. Living organisms do not exist in a vacuum. They are constantly interacting with each other and their environment. It's this giant, dynamic, ongoing web of activity.
And how do we actually know something is part of that web? Well, scientists have a core checklist of life processes. Basically, for an organism to be considered part of the living world, it generally has to show these traits. Growth, increasing in mass or number. Reproduction, which is creating new life. Metabolism, cellular organization, meaning it's built out of fundamental building blocks we call cells. And consciousness. Now, consciousness in this specific context just means the ability to sense and respond to whatever's happening in the environment. All living things share these fundamental traits.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting. Notice the emphasis on one very specific word on that list: metabolism. See, while living things generally grow and reproduce, metabolism is the absolute, non-negotiable, defining feature of life. Every single living organism, literally without exception, has chemical reactions happening inside its cells right now to keep it alive. No metabolism? No life. It is that simple. Definitely lock that fact into your memory.
Moving right along to Section 2, Earth's incredible biodiversity.
Okay, now that we've nailed down what a living organism is on an individual cellular level, let's zoom way out. Let's look at the massive scale of the planet. When you take all those metabolizing, growing, interacting organisms and put them together on one giant rock spinning in space, you get biodiversity. This is the immense variety of living organisms present on Earth. But, why should we care? Well, this incredible variety is absolutely essential for our ecological balance. It secures our food resources, it's the foundation of modern medicine. Quite simply, biodiversity is the ultimate safety net for our planet's survival.
To give you a really concrete idea of this biological wealth, let's look at India. India is recognized globally as one of the world's mega-diverse countries. It holds a staggering percentage of the entire world's flora and fauna right within its borders. It's just a perfect, localized example to help us understand just how incredibly varied and dense life on Earth can actually be.
Which brings us to Section 3, the science of taxonomy.
So this massive biodiversity brings up a pretty huge problem. With millions upon millions of species out there in these megadiverse regions, how do scientists actually keep track of it all? How do they avoid just total, utter confusion? Well, enter taxonomy. This is the elegant solution to the absolute chaos of nature. Taxonomy is the science of identifying, naming, and classifying organisms. So instead of just staring at millions of random plants and animals, taxonomy lets us group them based on their similarities and differences. It makes identification so much easier, allows for really structured scientific study, and crucially, it gives scientists across the globe a universal language to communicate with.
And you really cannot talk about taxonomy without bringing up Carolus Linnaeus. He is widely celebrated as the father of taxonomy.
Linnaeus was basically the scientific hero who stepped up and brought order to all that biological chaos. He established the foundational systems we still use today. He basically built the filing cabinet for the living world so that a scientist in Brazil and a scientist in Japan can know for sure with absolute certainty that they are talking about the exact same organism.
All right, Section 4, Classifying and Naming Life.
Okay, so how did Linnaeus actually pull this off? Let's dive into exactly how modern scientists organize this cosmic filing cabinet of life. The main thing to grasp is that taxonomy works kind of like an address system, starting from the broadest category and zooming all the way down to the most specific. We start right at the top with kingdom, then move down to phylum, class, order, family, genus, and finally species. Let's make this abstract concept instantly concrete by looking at ourselves, the human example. We belong to the kingdom Animalia. Down we go to the phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Primates, family Hominidae, genus Homo, and finally our specific species, Homo sapiens. Literally every identified living thing on Earth has a 7-level address just like this.
Let's look a little bit closer at that very final step, the actual name itself. Linnaeus introduced this brilliant concept called binomial nomenclature that basically just means a 2-word scientific name. And there are strict rules scientists have to follow here. The first word is the genus, and that always starts with a capital letter, like Homo with a capital H. The second word is the species, and it always starts with a small letter, like sapiens with a small s. Oh, and whenever these names are printed in text, they must be italicized. It's a beautifully simple, totally standardized rulebook.
That leads us right to our final section, Section 5, Tools for Organizing Life.
So how do scientists actually maintain this massive, highly regulated filing system out in the messy real world? I mean, you didn't think they just memorized all this, did you? They actually rely on a specific toolkit known as taxonomical aids. These include herbaria for preserved plant specimens, botanical gardens for living plants, museums for preserved animal and plant specimens, and zoological parks for living animals. They also use these really cool analytical tools called keys. Keys are basically logical flowcharts used to identify unknown organisms based on contrasting characteristics. Put it all together, and these tools form the physical and analytical bedrock that helps researchers correctly identify and classify the living world every single day.
And this really brings us back full circle to why all of this matters so much. Classification ensures universal naming, it avoids confusion, it helps push research forward, allows for easy communication, and probably most importantly, it drives the conservation of biodiversity. You see, taxonomy isn't just about sticking labels on things in dusty museums. It's about global communication and survival. We literally cannot save our planet's incredibly diverse life if we don't first know exactly what is out there to be saved.
I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. If metabolism is the strict defining feature of life as we know it, and our current taxonomic hierarchy organizes everything based on Earth's evolutionary history, how in the world will we classify the completely synthetic organisms we might create in a lab, or say, the extraterrestrial life we might discover tomorrow? Honestly, will Linnaeus's filing cabinet even be big enough for the future of the living world? It's a pretty fascinating question. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the foundations of biology. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.